In April 1940, Benito Mussolini ordered every available copy of his own official doctrine destroyed, not because of paper shortages, not because of enemy action, because he had second thoughts about certain crucial phrases. Today, I want to use that moment as a case study in how ideology, power, and self revision actually work, and then bring it straight back to something far more practical: the standards we claim in our own creative work. In 1932, Mussolini published The Doctrine of Fascism. Large parts were written by the philosopher Giovanni Gentile. It was presented as the intellectual foundation of the regime and translated into at least 18 languages. A central claim of the text is this: the fascist conception of the state is all embracing. Outside of it, no human or spiritual values can exist, much less have value. Thus understood, fascism is totalitarian. You can still read surviving versions of it here. 8 years later, in 1940, Mussolini ordered all available copies recalled and destroyed. According to Denis Mack Smith, he had second thoughts about certain crucial phrases. For further context, several important sources help us see how flexible the ideology actually was. In Emma Ludwig's Talks with Mussolini, 1932, Mussolini tells the interviewer, "The fascist state directs and controls the entrepreneurs. If anything fails to work properly, the state intervenes." He presents the doctrine as a living and adaptable rather than fixed. Mario Palomari, in The Philosophy of Fascism, insists that fascism is eminently idealistic and anti-individualistic philosophy of life. Yet, even this systematic defense treats the ideas as tools in service of the larger project. Neil O'Sullivan's study of fascism places the doctrine in the wider history of modern ideologies and notes how often fascist theory remained secondary to the demands of power. Nicholas Farrell's Mussolini's A New Life examines how Mussolini treated ideology as something that could be adjusted when circumstances changed. Across these works, the pattern is consistent. The doctrine was never treated as unchangeable truth. It was a tool that could be emphasized, revised, or quietly withdrawn. This is the pure mechanism. Create a public doctrine to justify authority. Treat the doctrine as provisional. Suppress or rewrite it the moment it conflicts with new needs. Maintain the appearance of continuity while quietly discarding the previous version. Power revises its own foundations to protect itself. The standard is secondary to the exercise of control. The same pattern appears on a much smaller scale in creative life. A classical guitarist or composer often begins with clear personal standards, a private doctrine. I only perform a piece when the difficult passages are secure. I will protect focused, uninterrupted practice time. I will not dilute the music just to make it more immediately likable. These standards give the work direction and integrity. Then pressure arrives. Here are 3 common ways the original standard is quietly abandoned. 1. The performance standard is lowered after weeks of frustration. 2. Focused practice time slowly shrinks and becomes casual run-throughs. 3. A composition starts with structural honesty and ends with extra flourishes added for easy appeal. In each case, the original principles is not only openly rejected, it is simply no longer enforced. Continuity is pretended while the actual rule has changed. The books we just mentioned show the same move on a historical scale. Mussolini's conversations with Emma Ludwig, the philosophical claims of Palomari, and the latter biographical assessments all reveal an ideology that could be adjusted or withdrawn when convenient. The creative parallel is personal rather than political, but the structure is the same. Power revives doctrine to protect itself. Serious creative practice does the opposite. It lets the standard judge the work, even when the standard is costly. philosophical clarity requires a periodic check. Are the standards I claim still the ones actually governing my decisions? If the answer is no, there are only two honest options. One, recommit to the original standard, or two, openly revive the standard and accept the new one. Silent abandonment turns a principle into decoration. Mussolini destroyed a doctrine because it no longer served power. A serious creative life refuses to destroy its own standards simply because they have become inconvenient. That is the usable lesson. Further reading. If this kind of practical philosophy applied to creative work is useful to you, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.